How to Steal a Dog, Chapter 11. Hey y'all, Mama called as she made her way across the parking lot toward the car. Look what I got. She stuck a styrofoam box through the window. Check this out, she said. I opened up the box. Scrambled eggs and pancakes. They sure did smell good. And that's not all, she said, tossing a paper bag into the back seat. Toby snatched the bag up and peered inside, then let out a whoop. Donuts, he hollered. He grabbed a powdery white donut and started eating it so fast he choked, coughing out the spray of powder and crumbs. Ew, I said, wiping off my jeans. Mama slid behind the steering wheel and examined herself in the mirror. This job is going to be great, she said, licking a finger and smoothing an eyebrow. The tips are really good, and I get to bring home all kinds of food. Food? Talk about luck. Now we wouldn't have to worry about feeding Willie. I poked Toby and gave him a thumbs up. His eyebrows shut up, and he mouthed, "What?" at me. I flapped my hand at him to signal never mind, but he wouldn't be quiet. He kept on whispering, "What?" I shook my head and pulled an invisible zipper across my lips, which meant hush up. I can't tell you in front of Mama. But he was too dumb to figure that out. "What?" he said a little louder. "What did you say?" Mama said. I pressed my foot on top of Toby's and smiled at Mama in the rearview mirror. "Nothing," I said. I settled back and ate some pancakes, which sure did taste good, even though they were soggy with syrup. When I finished, I took out my notebook and wrote, "Save some donuts for Willie." I pushed the notebook across the seat and poked Toby. He squinted down at my notebook, then he grinned and said, "Oh, okay." "What?" Mama said. I jabbed my heel into Toby's foot, and he hollered, "Ow!" Mama whirled around and snapped, "What are y'all doing?" I slapped my hand over the note and smiled at her. "Nothing." "Well, don't y'all just start that bickering back there," she said. "Let's go find us someplace to park." I glared at Toby. We hadn't had that dog one whole day yet, and he's already acting all stupid around Mama. It would be a miracle if she didn't find out what we had done. But so far it seems like everything was working out good. I stolen Willie, no problem. I found a good place to keep him, and Mama had a job at a coffee shop that gave her free food. Now all I had to do was stash some of the food in my backpack for Willie. I took out my notebook, April 18th, and my How to Steal a Dog notes. Then I wrote, Step 5, things to do after you have stolen the dog. Be sure to act nice to him so he won't be afraid. 2, play with him so he'll still like you. 3, make sure you put him in a safe place that he won't get wet if it rains. 4, tie up the rope or string so he can't run away. 5, find him some food and water. Uh-oh, water. I had forgotten about that. But I was still pretty sure that wasn't going to be a problem. Still, I put a question mark beside that one so I would remember to figure it out. That night, it seemed like I hardly slept at all. A steady rain clattered on the roof and ran down the windows in the stream. The inside of the car was so hot, I had to crack my window, and the rain splattered my face and made my pillow wet. I listened to the slow evening breathing of Mama and Toby. I thought about Willie. I wondered if he would get scared. Was he getting wet? Was he hungry? Every time I closed my eyes, I could see his freckly face and those shiny black eyes. I could see him cock his head at me and wag his whole body the way he did. "Don't be scared, Willie," I whispered into the still night air. The car windows fogged up, so I couldn't even see outside. I used my finger to write Willie on the foggy glass. I drew a heart around it, then wiped the window clean and turned my mind to off. When I opened my eyes the next morning, I felt all fluttery and excited like on Christmas morning. Today's the day we would find the reward sign for Willie. Mama made us use the water in the cooler to brush our teeth while she was putting on her lipstick and stuff in the car. I filled an empty soda bottle with water and put it in my backpack. Then I checked to make sure I had a bag of food scraps for Willie. Yep, half a donut and some scrambled eggs. I pulled Toby close and whispered, "We gotta look for the reward sign today, okay?" He nodded, "Okay." We could hardly keep ourselves from the grinning as we made our way through the streets of Derby on our way to school. I sat up straight and pressed my face against the window, searching every telephone pole we passed. As soon as we got closer to school, my excitement began to fade into disappointment. I guess in my heart I had known it was probably too soon to find any signs. We'd only stolen that dog the day before, but in my mind I had pictured signs on every pole. They would be they would be up and down the streets of Derby in big letters, reward. Then there would be a picture of Willie, cocking his head and staring out at the world with his furry black eye patch. But when I saw outside the window, that wasn't nothing like what I had seen in my mind. There wasn't one sign, none, nowhere. I tried to swallow my disappointment and tell myself to be patient. The signs won't be up after school, for sure. You all go straight back to the car after school, okay? Mama said, pulling over to the curb. We will, I said. And stay there, Georgina. We will. And help Toby with his homework. I nodded and watched her drive away and grabbed Toby's arm. Do you see any signs? Nope. Darn. I stamped my foot. Maybe the lady doesn't care about Willie, Toby said. I shook my head. No way she cares, I said. Who wouldn't care about a dog like that? Toby shrugged. Maybe she hasn't got any money, he said. She owns the whole street, Toby, I said. A school bus had pulled up and kids came pouring out, rushing to the front door of the school. Me and Toby pushed our way through and went inside. Listen, I said, meet me at the flagpole after school. We got to take the food over to Willie. Then we can look for the reward signs. I bet they'll be up by this afternoon. Mama said we had to stay in the car. Toby said. I rolled my eyes. She won't even know what we do. She'll be at the coffee shop. I watched Toby walk away as he headed towards his class. His clothes were wrinkled and his hair was long and tangled. He was sure a pitiful sight. I wondered if this is how I looked. When Mr. White asked me for the millionth time if I had given those letters to my parents, I lied again. I said I had, but Mama and Daddy were real busy working and all. I told him my daddy was going to call him any day now. Yeah, right, that's a good one. I felt bad lying to Mr. White. He was the nicest teacher I'd ever had. He didn't even get mad when my science report had fried chicken grease on it. He hadn't said one word about when I didn't have a costume for our play about the Boston Tea Party like the other kids did. And he let me go on to the nurse's office even when he knew I wasn't one bit sick. But when he asked about those letters, what else could I do but lie? Luann didn't hardly even talk to me all day. I was wearing the same clothes I had on yesterday, and I thought I could make a face when I walked into class that morning. I thought I saw Lisa poke her at recess and point at me. I thought I heard my name every time I walked by kids giggling and whispering and all. So who cares, I told myself. I didn't care about any of those kids anymore, maybe not even Luann. I found myself doing stuff I never would have done before we started living in the car. Stuff that I knew would make kids poke each other and laugh at me. Like, I took Melissa Gavin's half-eaten granola bar out of the trash and put it in Willie's food bag. And when Jake Sampson called me a garbage picker, I kept my mouth shut and went on back to my desk like I didn't care. After school, I waited for the flagpole for Toby. Then we headed off towards the old dark house to check on Willie. Toby kept whining about how his backpack was too heavy and his feet hurt and all, but I ignored him. I found a plastic margarine tub on the side of the road and wiped the dirt off the edges of my shirt. What can we use that for? Willie's water bowl, I said, tucking it into my backpack. Toby kept saying, slow down, as we made our way up the gravel road. He splashed right through the muddy puddles, not even caring about his shoes were getting soaked and his legs were covered in mud. But I didn't slow. I was dying to get to Willie. I needed to see him. I sure hoped he was okay. As soon as I rounded the corner of the house, I heard a little yip from the back porch. Then I saw Willie poke his head through the torn screen, and my heart nearly leapt right out for me. I felt so glad to see him. Right away, he started wagging his whole body like he was the happiest dog on earth. Hey there, fella, I said, sitting at the top step of the porch and giving him a hug. He licked my face all over. Are you hungry? I said. Before I could even open the bag, he was pushing it in with his whiskery nose. Here you go. I opened the bag and let him gobble up the eggs and stuff inside. He sure was hungry, Toby said. I rubbed my hand down Willie's back while he ate. He was a little wet and smelled kind of bad, but he seemed okay. I opened up the soda bottle and poured some of the water into the margarine tub. Willie went to the town lapping it up. We got to let him run a little bit, I said. But what if he runs away? We'll keep him on a leash, dummy. I untied the string from the doorknob. Come on, Willie, I said. Me and Toby took turns running up and down the road Willie ran right through the puddles. Sometimes he'd stop and shake himself, sending sprays of muddy water all over me and Toby. Once in a while he stopped to take a good long drink from the puddle, but mostly he just ran and leapt and barked, a happy kind of bark. We had to run real fast to keep up with him, or he was liable to bust that string right in two. There, I said, that ought to be enough. Willie sat in the road in front of me, panting. He lifted his doggy eyebrows and watched me like he was waiting for something. I knelt down and scratched his ears. Don't worry, I said. You're going to be home real soon. He stopped panting and perked his ear up. Then he put a paw on my knee. He sure is cute, ain't he? Toby said. He sure is. I stroked Willie's paw and felt a stab inside. Was it really, really wrong to do what I was doing? Or was it just a little bit wrong? I pushed Willie's paw off my knee and stood up to shut those thoughts right out of my head and to keep one thought that I had only in there. I was doing this for Mama and Toby and me, to help us get a real place to live, not a car. What's so wrong about that? We took Willie to the porch. I tied him on the string around the doorknob. Don't worry, fella, I said. You'll be home soon, I promise. I filled the margarine tub again with water and set it on the porch beside Willie. He needs a bed, Toby said. I looked at the crummy old back porch. Toby was right. The porch was damp and dirty and covered with sticks and leaves. I should have brought a towel or something to make a bed. I felt a stab inside. I was being mean to Willie, wasn't I? We'll bring something next time we come, I said. But then I added, if he's still here. Toby frowned. Why wouldn't he be here? I sighed. It was sure tiring having to explain every darn thing to little Toby. We'll be taking him back home, you idiot, as soon as we find that reward sign. Oh, yeah. I gave Willie one last pat on the head and made my way down the rotten porch steps. I wanted to look back, but I didn't. I knew I wouldn't be able to stand the sight of that little dog watching me walk away and leaving him all alone. I led the way through the bushes to the road. Behind us, I thought I heard Willie barking. I didn't, though, I told myself. I'm not mean, I reminded myself. This was a good idea, and everything was going to turn out fine, I repeated in my head. I guessed I was hoping that if I said those things, then maybe it would be true.